what, I know we're still a little late. We're going to go ahead and start this first session. So those of you that are going to be on the panel, you're listed. If you'll please come on up and get seated. And while you're doing that, I'm going to introduce our first moderator. Like Spencer said before, he really needs no introduction. George Allen has been in this business before Thomas Jefferson was the president. So, as a matter of fact, I don't even think they had wheels. They called them mobile because they towed them along behind carts with horses. But he's been an advocate for you, the park owners, throughout his entire career. He's went toe-to-toe with the industry giants, with the media, with the legislators especially, who I think we all know has, in a sense, trying to destroy what we've created, affordable housing for people in some instances. His writing style is unlike any I've ever seen. He has vocabulary that I think he has to search for an 1819 dictionary to pull out. But anyway, he really writes some good stuff. He's always been helpful to our industry. As a middleman, he is your quintessential protector of the small community owner. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's never been influenced by the large operators. And I give a lot of credit to what these homes you see out here, because it was himself, he and a few others that had the brainchild to go to the manufacturers and say, you need to start preparing for the future. What you see out there today is the future. So George is going to talk about this paradigm shift that's taken place over the past few years. So if you'll help me in introducing Mr. George Allen.
Actually, I was president of the Last Supper. So, I do predict what he said to you. My way of introduction is very simple. So we need to try to get back on schedule a little bit. And I'm going to pick up on what Steve just told you. Where we are, I don't know if you know this about, since the year 2000, we are still in a 16-year paradigm shift for the manufactured housing industry. And the first major step it took was 2009, when a group of us met with manufacturers in Elkhart, Indiana, and said, we need you to start building homes that are more appropriate for our communities, either single-section homes or moderate-sized, multi-section homes with durability enhancing features and a few other factors like that.
Closer, we can't hear you.
You mean you can't hear me now? There we go, now we're okay. So anyway, that was the first major step. Then 2014 was at dawn, we kind of realized the community owners have come into their own. What this paradigm shift and this new era is all about is the distribution of manufactured homes has shifted significantly, as Spencer told you earlier, from independent street retailers to community owners who are selling actively on site. And I'm going to cover more of this in the State of the Industry talk at noon today. In fact, I want to share some things with you at noon today that have not been shared in public before, because as you sit here today in Washington, D.C., the Manufactured Housing Institute, Manufactured Housing Association for Regulatory Reform are going to be meeting with HUD because of a major issue that's taking place today. I will brief you on that as part of my State of the Industry talk at noon. So I want you to know that you're at the cutting edge of a new era of manufactured housing, i.e. that community owners and operators have come into their own because of selling homes on site. And so without further ado, I want to introduce my panelists to you. Stacy already introduced herself very ably earlier out in the audience, but she is indeed a community owner, attorney with a degree in finance, and specializes in community turnaround. So any of you that are in the midst of thinking about doing that, you probably want to talk to Stacy, or Stacy right there, later on today. And John Harrison is in with us from California, and he is with Inspire Communities, one of the fastest growing aggressive portfolio firms in the country. By the way, just quickly so you understand the terminology going on here, a portfolio firm, from the way I set it up 26 years ago, is any individual, partnership, corporation, or REIT that owns a minimum of 5 communities or 500 rental sites. So if you own 500 or 600 rental sites in one community, you're on my portfolio list. Or if you own 6 small communities under 100 sites in size, you're on my list. And we'll talk more about what that means a little later at lunchtime today. But John's with one of the most aggressive companies, and you want to talk to him about it, the way they're growing, what they're looking for. David Roden, you've met David down in a couple times earlier this morning, and he's since 1988 with his wife built down. It's might have been your father too, right? No, okay. He built with his wife a Mountain View Estates in Georgia, and he actually was pretty well renowned, thanks to being in my newsletter, for having one of the largest, most attractive tornado shelters anywhere in this part of the country. So if you're interested in tornado shelters and the way they should be done, you want to talk to David about that privately. Chuck Meek is president of Bay Acceptance, residential property owner, and I can't even read my own writing, but basically out of Alabama, right? And then Glen James, Glen and I go way back. I'm real proud of Glen. He's one of the few certified property managers in our asset class. In fact, there's only a little over 100 of us. Bob Love that's in the room, I am, and Glen are probably the only 3 CPMs. Do we have any other CPMs in the room? I don't think so. Okay, good for you. Stick with it. Anyway, I think a lot of Glen because I've seen him come through the business, and now he's one of the most influential owners in the Midwest, and he's the incoming president of the IMHA RVIC, which is the state association in the state of Indiana. And Maryuri, I can never pronounce that right. Maryuri. Okay. As the CFO of Spitzer's company, and really is the one that keeps him on an even straight course financially and just about every other way. So I admire her for what she's able to do. And the one guy I'm not going to be able to tell you much about other than John Harris, George Harris, is from Texas and an experienced community owner, and he'll be with us answering questions too. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a question, and I'm not going to ask each person on the panel to comment on it, because that would just take too much time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question, and one that cares to maybe hold forth for a few minutes on their experience will do so, and perhaps we will do a second one before we move on to the next question. And my first question is this: if you're purchasing new homes, which I'm assuming is pretty much the case in your community, when did you start doing this? Why? And what do you buy today? So if you're selling new manufactured homes on site, when did you start? Why did you start? And what are you buying today in terms of single-wide, multi-section, community seniors homes, or what? So who would like to just share with the group like that? Yeah, Mary?
We started with the new homes back in 2009 in our property in Texas. And it has been a wonderful success because since then, we just decided to not buy used homes because it took us more money to repair them than actually produce profit. So right now, we're just doing brand new homes. It helps us to improve our value in the community. It brings better qualified buyers. Improves it helps with the profit of the company too.
Good.
So for us, new homes is the best for the last 7 years.
David, were you waving at me, or did you want to come through? Go ahead.
Well,
No, you go.
I didn't wave at you, but hi, anyway. We were hesitant in buying new homes. We held out, we fought it. We would buy the repos, we would fix them up. Spencer beat me over the head literally. He said, why are we not buying new homes? He convinced me that through their experience it was right. We tried one, it sold for cash within like 30 days. I'm thinking, golly, what's the chance of that happening? From then on, we were hooked. It adds to the park. It brings a sense of pride back to our community. The residents love the new homes, the way they look. It makes the park look new, keeps it looking fresh. It does bring in a very good clientele that we had to get out of. So we're very proud that we're now buying new product, and we're going to continue on and on.
David, tell us a little bit about your tornado shelter. What size and what's the basic construction?
We had 2011, April 27th, we had those 300 storms come across the south that literally took homes, breaking motor homes out. We found a company out of South Georgia that brought up a 60-foot, 12-foot wide, 8-foot tall community shelter. We anchored it and welded it to a 2-foot slab, weighs 250,000 pounds. It's rated by FEMA at 250 miles an hour. It'll hold our whole community. It's got a backup generator, bathroom, the whole work. So we knew that it was the best investment we could make for our community.
Would you say that in
And George, closer to your mouth.
It's not on.
would you? I'm close to it.
It's not working.
It's not on.
The light green.
Red.
Okay, here, try this one, maybe battery.
Yeah, better. Okay, sorry about that. David, would you say that your tornado shelter looks like a gigantic half culvert?
That,
I mean, just I'm trying to give you a visualization, that at the end, it's like a giant half culvert, and how tall and how long?
60 feet long, 8 feet tall, 12 feet wide, and it's built that way to avoid the pressure and the wind that goes
Right.
around it, not push it.
Okay, we're moving right on. I just think I need to hear about that. Question for the audience?
Yeah, how do you, if you put new homes into a community as a community owner, how do you get around various state laws that you have to be a dealer? So how do you bridge that gap? If I want to go to 21st and finance a home, I have to be a dealer. If I want to sell more than one home a year in certain states, I have to be a dealer. And that's a very expensive, onerous process in a lot of states. So how do you work around that?
Anybody care to field that question?
George, repeat the question.
You're right. If you're working in various states, how do you handle the off-time requirement of having to obtain a dealer's license at the very least to be able to function as a retailer in your community? When do you guys want to handle this?
I'll just say, we avoid it by leasing the homes instead of selling them.
Okay,
So
what company again?
Inspire Communities.
Okay.
So we have about 1,100 homes in our portfolio. And we let all of our residents know that they can buy the home if they want to, but we'd rather just avoid all of the, we're in 14 states, so I realize the sensitivity. And so what we try to do is just put them into the leasing program. We try to put them into the leasing program, but let the resident know that they can buy their home anytime they want. It's just hopefully, the nice thing about if you're a resident and you're living in that home, we let everybody know that home is going down in value every year, which makes it a little bit more affordable for them. So they can test drive the home first, and then people don't like to move. I think that is another thing that you can try to convey to them is just treat this as your own home, and hopefully someday when you go get a loan, you cash us out, we'll arrive at a price when you're ready.
Okay, Glen?
I would recommend contacting your state association if you're not a member, but if not, join up as a member. But they may have several different options available to you, what some other experienced operators have done in the market, whether it is lease option or doing rental versus sale.
Thanks, Stacy.
I recognize that every state's regulations may be different, and it may be more arduous to become a licensed dealer in Georgia, and I don't know specifically what the regulations are in other states. And I'm, obviously not pro-regulation, but in Michigan, at least the $450 fee, it's good for 3 years. We don't pay sales tax. And so if we buy homes, whether we're going to resell them or we're going to rent them, and we don't know at the time we purchase them, if we're not a licensed dealer and we go to transfer title in our name, we're going to get paid 6% sales tax on a $30,000 home. We're going to take an $1,800 hit. So it pays for itself, with one house. And so it is worth it. It is absolutely a pain. In Michigan specifically, in prior years, you had to redo the paperwork every year. Recently, they changed it to every 3 years, which makes it, so you just bite the bullet and cut the check. In fact, we have a separate retailer's license for all of our communities, and so we do end up paying a little bit extra, but from an accounting perspective, it does make sense for us. But yeah, I think you can avoid it, but it's not necessarily always the best way to go.
Before we move on to another question, I would like to return to the previous one we started with, in case someone else on the panel would like to comment as to if you're selling homes on site, when did you start, why did you start, and what are you currently selling? Is there anybody else who wants to? Yes, Stacy?
That's right. Our first community we purchased was in 2006 in Michigan. The license number for this community was 11. It was like the 11th site or mobile home park built in the state. So homes back then, it was probably built and licensed in the 50s, were tiny, lots were tiny. We had to combine a lot of lots to accommodate newer homes. And without buying new homes, we would have, if we only could rely on repos, and keep in mind this was 06, 07, 08, so there were repos everywhere. Now finding a 1656 is like a needle in a haystack, and back then I could walk through, I wasn't doing it, of course, wink, wink, but I could walk into a hometown park and find 6 of them. It doesn't happen anymore. And so in order for us to even fill the sites at all, we were forced to purchase new, and it was the best thing we could have ever done, especially since the community we purchased was a turnaround community, and it sent a huge message to the community that we were putting our money where our mouth is. And without it, I don't think we would have done anywhere near as well as we did.
Okay, were you able to find new small homes at those sites? Or did you have to combine small sites to make a site for a new home?
Both. We had some, this particular community is a donut shape with an outer circle and an inner circle. Some of the inner sites, absolutely had to be combined. In order, so we combined, we lost, 5 or 6 sites on the corners. I made room for good-sized double wides where we would have otherwise had two small single wides. But yeah, back then, we worked with Redmond, and they made, and they still do offer 14, I think the smallest was a 14 by 40. And we bought those, we bought maybe 1 or 2, I think it was 16 by 40s we bought, and then we bought the 1656s with the 8-foot by 16-foot front porch, and lined them on the main road, and it was awesome. It was, people were, I felt like in this little town, I couldn't go to the grocery store without being treated like a local celebrity for having demoed these older houses and bringing in these, everybody was, it was really quite a transformation, thanks solely to the new homes.
Good. One last time, anybody at the panel care to share their experience before I move on?
Georgia?
Yeah.
We have one in Detroit, very similar. You're combining spaces to accommodate the larger homes. Right now, we work with a manufacturer out of Indiana, Adventure Homes, and they're doing custom-built homes for these smaller spaces. And they're being occupied like hotcakes. They're 16 by 42s, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and on those smaller home sites. And it's a high demand for us there.
It's creating a waiting list for us. We lease our new homes, and like David Spencer beat me over the head for a couple of years to buy the new homes, and it's really changed the way that we look at the business, and we can sometimes have them rented before they arrive because we can show someone else's home that's new, and then we'll be collecting applications on them, and we can just take the cream of the crop. They literally, I haven't had a new home sit vacant for more than 2 weeks in any of our parks.
Okay, for those of you to whom this idea of renting new manufactured homes to strangers, so to speak, okay, that may trouble you, it should trouble you. I got into business in the 70s, and I had 1,200 sites on which I had 350 rental units, half of which were duplex rental units. So I learned to live the rough way back then and converted to sales as quickly as I could. But something I've noticed happening among some of the larger firms, I'm not sure whether any of these folks have or not, I hope one of them has and will speak to this issue, is that some of the larger portfolio firms that are very heavy into rentals right now, especially Sun Communities, for example, as part of their lease, they treat it as a service to their lessee that once a month, someone from staff will be coming through the home to either spray for bugs or changing a filter, whatever appropriate. Now, well, of course, what they're there also to do is to see how the resident is taken care of or abusing the company's property. But they do it under the guise of providing a needed service every month. I think that's a terrific way to control the quality of your homes in your inventory. Any of you do that, or?
But what our experience is once that resident proves themselves as far as taking care of our property, like you mentioned, we'll back those inspections down to quarterly, sometimes semi-annually, just because eventually, like we said, we approach it as a lease, but hopefully someday they can buy that home for us.
Why don't you guys take these microphones off the stands that we can hand them back and forth? I'm afraid you're going to fall off the front.
George, if I may, several years ago I was at a conference in, I believe it was Yes Communities. A gentleman was talking about some of their management operations, and I took that under advisement, and they were calling it a Gold Key Service Program, and essentially we've incorporated that into our management operations. All new lessees or homeowners within the first year will do monthly inspections, and essentially it's just to come in, look for water leaks, change the furnace filter out, but we get a good look, see inside the unit. After 12 months, they go to quarterly
inspection.
George, did you want to say something?
Well, I came here to listen and still talk, but I do have some things to say. One of the things that we do is we're just putting in all new homes now, and we have a park that stays full all the time. So we have people that have lived there like 31 years, and they've got their house. Then we have 77 units that actually belong to us out of 119. And we go, when someone moves in new, we go in there the first 30 days and make sure they know how to change the filter and see how they're taken care of. Then after that, it's quarterly. But it works real good for us. The other thing I want to mention is that if we're using smaller homes, if we're buying 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or something like that, we also try to stay with a stacked unit and the washer and dryer. And the other thing is that some of our people, out where we live, a lot of people use freezers. That gives you room to put the freezer in where you would have one of the washer or dryers. The big problem is that there's not enough plugs there usually.
I just learned something. Hopefully some of you did too. Stack your washer and dryer and put a freezer next to where the one appliance would be. Yes?
A question for the panel. How do you guys determine from refurbishing a house to replacing? Is there a number that you guys look at? Say, all right, we're going to keep it, or eventually you're trying to convert all your homes into new ones?
Question, I think the question is, what is the decision-making process between refurbishing a home or encouraging getting rid of it and replacing it with a new home?
We prefer to sell it instead of refurbishing it and put a new one in there. It's cost effective for us.
Is there anybody on the panel that is referring to fix up a home rather than buy a new one?
We won't fix up anything that's a flat top roof. We'll sell that off. If it's a peaked roof, then we'll look at it and decide what the rehab's going to cost.
Yeah, when we see the house is getting older and we budget over $15,000, it doesn't make sense for us to spend that money, so we decided to just tear it down and get a new mobile home, which will improve the appearance of the community. And so we have a number that we say just going over 10 or 15 is not necessary.
Okay, let's move on to another question. Since all of you are selling new homes at one point or another, is there a feature or features that have come to be very popular? I realize this is probably a local housing market question, but still, is there a feature or features that you count on helping you to sell the homes that you inventory in your property? Go ahead.
George, one of the things that we see is these front-load porches are really popular down where we are.
Front-loaded porches is a pretty popular option across the country, actually. Stacy?
There are probably 20 options that we don't consider options. They are on the form as options, and they total about, double wides, it costs a little bit more obviously, but anywhere between the $4,000 to $6,000, maybe $7,000 range. They're just absolute must-haves. I think if you're buying a new home, even if the ultimate goal is to sell it, you need to buy it as though it's going to be in your inventory, either from the beginning or at some point and you are going to own that house. And so I wrote down a list of a few of them. I'd be happy to even show. We just ordered 2 new homes through the Clayton Wakarusa plan, and I have the order form. But additional shutters on the home at $40 a set. You can't really even buy them at Lowe's or Home Depot. Depending on where you're going to put the house, I think put shutters on every window. 6-foot dormers over the doors. Wire and brace is one thing we always do. We request that they actually don't put light fixtures in the bedrooms in the living room. And we have, after $50 a pop, they wire and brace each light fixture, and then we install very nice fans after the fact, and so people then like it down the line, hot days in the summer, and they've got fans in every room, and otherwise they're coming to us and saying, hey, what is it going to take for one of your maintenance guys to install a fan for us, which is a real pain to do after the fact if it's not braced appropriately. But again, I'd be happy to provide that. But one piece tubs, cabinet space. Clayton makes a 12-inch deep by, I believe it's 30 inches wide pantry. So you can put it in most hallways on single wide, or usually 48 inches. You can put it kind of between the laundry room area, maybe across from the furnace, if you can imagine that on a single wide home. And it doesn't impede. You still then have a 3-foot walkway, but you get floor-to-ceiling cabinetry for pantry. It's not deep enough for like a coat closet, But we do 2 of them side by side, so you only, you lose about 5 feet of width in an area that otherwise isn't, you don't have the depth to really put anything anyway, so it's just a walkway. But it's great because then people end up with 60 inches wide by, 8 feet tall for, I think it's $390, and they're $195 a pop. And it's been, people absolutely love them. It's been extremely cost effective for us.
Any other special features up here?
Yes, of course, it's all market dependent, but we found through our experience that upgraded plumbing fixtures, whether it's fiberglass tubs, shower surrounds, upgraded faucets in the units, 40-gallon water heaters, the plumbing upgrades have proven to be a very good value add for us.
David?
One of the things that we began seeing is downsizers, boomers who are coming to us now. Since we mow the grass and pretty safe community, we are mandatory now on our energy. We go heavy upgrades on all insulation, always heat pumps. We don't skimp on any of that. The tilt-in double pane insulated glass windows, energy saving appliances, LEDs throughout. What we found, we also go front porches. We love the curb appeal on the front porches. But what we're also seeing is that when you have a homeowner who has a $50 or $100 power bill, when their neighbors at church or on the ball field are paying $300, and they say, "You live where?" And you say, "Well, I live in a mobile home," and that's your best form of advertising. Energy saving, you pay a little more up front, but it is well worth the investment for us in advertising and for the homeowner.
We upgrade insulation, we use vinyl clad windows, and we do metal underpinning. And word has gotten around that our power bills are right at $100 when everybody else is paying $250. And we think we can get more rent because of that, so it works out well.
David?
Yes, first of all, for the audience, we do have a microphone, so if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get you the microphone so you can ask it. But my question is, there's been some comments about buying 1-bedroom homes, 2-bedroom, 3, 4. Who would like to comment on a mixture of different house bedroom layouts? What work better, or do you like the smaller ones or the bigger ones? That's my question.
We buy the biggest home that'll fit on the lot and put as many bedrooms as possible. So if at all possible, we buy a 1680 box, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But if it's a smaller lot, then obviously we'd go with a 2-bedroom.
We're also, we started trying this, that we stock a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and then we have the 3 bedrooms, double and single. We're trying to hit all the markets. We love the 1-bedrooms because they don't bring in a bunch of kids, so we just, we've had real good luck with that.
David, if I could, I think all of us here have some of the home sites that are smaller, that can only accommodate some of the shorter homes. What we've done, we've worked with the factories, or say the manufacturers, and looked at stretching some of these to 16 wide units, which are 1640s, 1650s, things of that nature to provide a little more square footage.
Spencer?
Question for the panel. I'm not sure this mic is on.
Yes, I think that's why I had it was dead.
Adam's dead? No, it's okay now. My question to the panel is, most manufacturers only offer a 1-year warranty on houses. How important would it be to you if the warranty were extended to 3 or 4 or 5 years?
I believe it definitely is going to add more trustworthy for the new buyer when they know that it's going to be a longer warranty. And the service that the manufacturer will provide is actually a plus when they receive on the contract. So for us, it will help a lot because after 1 year, things can start damaging. However, a new house usually you don't have any problems after it's 10 years, but it definitely will help to have an extended warranty.
Anyone else have an opinion on extended warranties? Guess not. Many owners, and perhaps some of you, if not all of you, when you buy a new home, to help improve the curb appeal of your property and the desirability of the house you're trying to sell, will have a landscaping package, for lack of a better term. And I'm curious as to which of you may, in fact, aspire to that philosophy? And if so, approximately how much do you spend per new home, and what does that cover when you put a new home on the site?
We do a 12 by 8 covered deck, and we do full width steps. So when they're bringing in their sofas and their large furniture, it's very easy to get up and down the steps. And again, metal underpinning, and we do also put shutters on each window. But we get that from the factory that way.
Stacy?
We likewise do the wood stairs. We keep a set that does not have rails on it. So for purposes of obtaining a certificate of occupancy, we have to have stairs at both doors with rails, but we keep an extra set. So when people move in, we can swap it out for their move-in day. We don't do the covered porch. I wish we did, but we don't right now. But from a landscaping perspective, when people rent the new homes, we treat it more, those people are looking more for an apartment alternative. They don't want to deal with landscaping. And so we handle all of that. And I know it's different in other parts of the country, but up in colder weather states, this time of year is a great time to head to English Gardens or Lowe's or Home Depot. They will start clearancing out perennials, 50 cents a pop. Plants that were 19, 20, 30 bucks. I can't tell you how many Octobers I have spent planting perennials that were dead. They were dead except for the roots. I have no idea what I'm actually planting in the ground because the picture's gone, but it was like 50 cents. And so in the spring, things look a little chaotic, and we maybe move things around, but we end up, obtaining $5,000 worth of perennials for, 50 bucks. And it works real well, especially if you're putting, 4 or 5 in front of a house. You really can't screw it up.
I just learned something else. I want to comment on that. One of the neat things about public speaking and being a moderator, I get to look across the audience as I can do, as they've been helping giving you good information. So see how many of you are actually taking notes, and actually a high percentage of you are. So that tells me that you're getting some good material out of here. So as we open up for questions a little later in the audience, be prepared to speak. Now, somebody over here? Yes?
I'm just wondering, what is the spread between your mortgage payment and your rent?
Our payments are normally, we're renting our 16 by 80, 3-bedroom, 2 baths for $675, $695, and all in with the decal, we're at norm tax, and our insurance, it's usually around $325, $350. So we're taking an empty lot that we were losing money on really because we were having to mow that grass, and we're turning in each empty lot into about $325 a month. So that's why we're buying them as fast as we can, and we're running out of lots, and we're going to be looking for another partner shortly.
That's our break-even point is $350.
Anybody else?
We try to stay under about $50 under market comparable rent.
What kind, what we started doing with our mobile homes, the older ones, is we're doing really good rehabs to them. Is what y'all said as far as updating water lines. We can do a lot for somewhere between $4,000 to $8,000. It's amazing what you can do on the older mobile homes. So my question is, in spending $20,000 to $30,000 for a mobile home, number one is, how do you justify the cost? Number two is, how much repairs are you having to do to the newer mobile homes? Because when I'm seeing the newer ones, I see a lot of plastic faucets, toilets, stuff like that compared to what we're putting into the homes.
Here, but to put this into context, you're talking about rehabbing older homes that are presently on site in your property, correct?
Yes, or it's taking it away and bringing it to the new.
Right, but I think that makes a big difference though, between whether or not you still have a source of bringing homes in to do that sort of thing, whether they're already there. But taking your question at face value, go ahead.
Well, this is very hard to find good used homes, and we're looking down the road 20, 30 years from now. So in 30 years, the home I buy today is still going to be a very viable asset. But the home that you're fixing up, it's either a flat top home or it's a very early 90s, in 15, 20 years, it's going to be so outdated. So, and since the financing is available and it's a very attractive, we feel like it's a good investment.
How much do you put into repairs on these new homes?
I've been doing it for 2 years, and if a faucet breaks, you can get a decent metal faucet for $40 at Lowe's, and it's cheap to change out. I haven't had a big problem with those types of breaks. Repairs have been super minimal for us, but then again, we've only been buying new homes for 2 years.
David?
One comment. It's a good question. What we look at, if we find a home that has good bones, the structurally is good, if it's not particle board flooring, we have gone in and put PEX throughout, taken the old gray stuff out where we were having a lot of problems. We put in new heat pumps. If the roof is good, but if it's got good bones, we will definitely consider, we can go in for under $5,000 and turn it back into something that's income producing. So I'm not opposed to leaving it, but when they get to that point that they detract from the community and they don't have the good bones and structurally that I'm looking for, then it's worth pulling out and putting something new in.
Yeah, before we take another response to that, for those of you who are not intimately familiar with what we call community series homes, and that's a relatively new term for you, and it's probably for most because they've only been around 2009. I said quickly when we started that these are single-section homes or modest-sized multi-section homes with durability enhancing features. But I didn't go any further. And Dave was just talking about not having particle board floors. For instance, plywood floors are often, not always, characteristic of a community series home. Hardwood cabinets instead of laminated cabinets are another durability feature. The whole idea being is whether you're using them for rentals or you're selling them, if a situation should come where you have to turn that home again or turn it again, it keeps your turnover and maintenance expenses to a minimum. And so when we're done here, I'm going to do a short commercial before we're done. There's a book on sale after this session that you can pick up that has, in fact, a detailed list of what goes in community series homes, as well as the names of the manufacturers who specialize in building them for you. Before we go after the audience, Stacy, you were going to add to this.
Yeah, just one last thing. We don't get rid of much stuff unless it's in really, really deplorable condition. We have found that if you have, again, to kind of piggyback on what David said, if you have a home that has good bones or even decent bones, it's going to cost you, between $1,500 and $3,000 to demo it. You're at $500 into a dumpster. Depending on scrap prices. If scrap prices go up, sometimes you can find guys that'll come in and do it for free, but they're probably not insured. So you've got issues to deal with. And so if you take anywhere from say $1,500 to $4,000 and put new siding in a metal house, maybe it's peaked, hopefully it's peaked, maybe it's dome, new siding, new shutters, maybe new windows, maybe not. If you've got windows that have, metal windows that have storms, maybe you can skip doing that. We actually buy online on Etsy. There's a bunch of places that make these very nice. Maybe they're 18 inches wide by 9 inches tall. They make engraved address signs. They're $25, $30. Some of them, the most recent ones we purchased are limestone, so they're not, you don't have to worry about water. If they're a wood product, or something, eventually you have to worry about them rotting. And it takes two, coated screws, screw them in the front, and we transform homes that look like, crappy tin cans, and people would have absolutely no idea. We brought in a used 70. It was right when they started, making peak roofs. It was a shallow peak house that was actually pulled out of a nearby park because they were putting a new home on that lot. We brought it up, we set it, we paid $1,000 for it delivered. We slapped new siding on it, new shutters, the sign. We did some work on the inside as well. We ended up selling the house and financing it through 21st for a resident. I think we sold it for $27,000. We did not make $27,000 on it, so I don't want to, pretend that was the case, but you can take homes that, again, the dome roofs, you do have some limited, because obviously there's really nothing you can do short of redoing the roof, and then, that's just not cost effective. You can take homes that don't look great and really make them look like $1 million with siding and shutters.
Okay, David, you have somebody back there?
No matter how well...
speak up.
No matter how well you screen your tenants and that, but how do you handle abandoned houses that you don't have a title to, so you can't do anything to those houses?
And you started out talking about screening tenants, and then you switched over to abandoned homes, so which...
Well, I mean, no matter how well you screen your tenants and you think you have the perfect tenant in there or owner in there, sometimes they do scoot out and you are left with an abandoned house that you don't have a title to. How do you handle that?
Okay, well, let's just deal with the abandoned home question first, because you did touch on an important topic of qualifying people before you rent to them or before you sell to them. Anyone want to comment on how you handle abandoned homes, or would you rather not share your secrets?
As far as well, we're in Texas, and if it's abandoned for 45 days, and you send there's a process that you can get the title to it from the state if it's abandoned over 45 days, and you send registered mail, and you get that back, and you take it to TDHCA, and they give you a time to it.
Anybody else share a secret?
Well, we do. We have a company that actually help us to search for the title, and it can take 6 months. It's a process. It's not easy, but we actually get the title, and if it's a product that we can put it back in the market, we fix it up and resell it. But what we try to do when we get an application of someone that owns a house that we are not financing, we make sure we get information that they have from their bank, their account, so we know, and sometimes we even ask copy of the title. So that way we have the records on our files for future reference.
Up until last year, in the state where Glen and I all work in Indiana, we had to do our abandoned homes by something called the innkeeper's lien, which dated back to the 1800s. And how innkeepers, if somebody left without paying their bill, could sell the boots or whatever they left behind to be made whole. But now, fortunately, we have an Abandoned Homes Act. We are about ready to wrap up, so we'll take another question from the floor and then let the panelists comment. Okay, we'll take 2 from the floor. Yes?
Thank you. If you have a community and the lot rent is low, for example, $150, $180, will a new house be financially viable in such a situation? And is there a metric that you use to determine if a new house will be financially viable?
Would you go through that one more time? I missed the very first thing you said.
Let's say you have a community and the lot rent is kind of on a low scale, $150 or $180 per month. Will a new house be financially viable in such a situation? And if so, is there a metric that you use to determine if a new house will actually work in such a community?
Our experience is we look at other forms of housing and what that costs. So we'll look at apartments in that submarket and also single-family homes and see what they're renting for. And then you work it backwards on what you can capture, because we want to be the affordable housing alternative to apartments and single-family homes. So it comes down to the math on where the market is and how much you can capture and whether it makes sense to bring in a new home or try to keep the existing home in place and fix it up.
So what percent lower than the housing value do you come down to?
We just try to be a couple $100 cheaper than apartments.
Okay, one last question from the audience. Yes?
What did you say that is being bought at Etsy? I didn't get that. You're buying on Etsy?
Address signs, plaques. So it's in lieu of buying, going to Home Depot or a hardware store, buying, the stickers that say your address is 13825 and sticking it on the corner post of the house. We purchase plaques, like you see it a lot, almost never in Michigan, but in southern communities, and you drive by and you see, plaques, and it'll say the address and the Clarks, and, living happily ever after, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, they look great, residents love them. In fact, with homes, we actually offer them at our expense to existing residents, so that, the existing residents then also kind of come in line with the new homes, and, we completely eat the cost. It's $30-40, people love it, and then there's a continuity as well, within the community as it relates to the address signs. I'd be happy to show you exactly what it is.
Okay, I think you would agree that we've had a very productive time for the last 45 minutes. And if you agree, why don't you give the panel a round of applause?
Hey, George. I think
a shot, George.
one of the things I think is important, especially in today's time, is ramps instead of steps. We see people, you have to do the ADA ramp if you have somebody that needs it. But we find that we put those in and people won't even use the steps anymore. So that's something important to us.
Okay, with that, I'm going to make a short commercial. I've been unauthorized to do this, but during break time, I've donated 30 copies of a book that if you don't have it, you probably will want it, so they're going to go fast, especially since they're only $20. Genevieve has them outside here. It addresses several of the things we've talked about in here, everything from what a community series home is, how to know how much of a home or mortgage you can put on the home and so forth. It's something that Spencer and I have authored with 3 other people. and the fact that we asked probably autograph it for you. So just know that for 20 bucks, they're available outside the door. And the best part of all, Seco is donating all the revenues from that, from the books, to the PAC fund at the GMHA. If you didn't get one of these plastic cards, I ran out around the room, and you want one, here's what you need to do. On the back of your business card, just write down 6 and a capital letter P, and I don't know what that means. Also, if you are a real estate broker and you want to be listed in the national brokerage list that I'm putting together, actually it's already together, I update it once a year. Then put down RE broker on the back of your business card and send that in to me, hand it to me. And I was sure that you will be listed in the real estate brokers directory coming out in December. And the last thing, for those of you who want to, there's a newsletter on the back table that probably not for everybody, but grab one if you want one. And here's the magic of it. It describes the networking roundtable that many of us attended in early September. And what I do in this article is I identify who all the speakers were and what they talked about. And I give you their phone number. And my understanding with my presenters is that if someone calls up and says, I saw where you were a speaker at the roundtable, you talked on this topic, would you please send me a copy of your PowerPoint or the topic they talked about? And in most cases, they will send you a free copy of that material. So keep that in mind. That's in the newsletter in the back. With that, we are done up here, and I'm going to turn back over to Steve unless you got something else.
Well, thank you, George. Thank you for the panel.